people in this room that I really need to thank. And first, I want her to stand up, Diane Wilder Tomlinson. I know I'm going to embarrass her. And the reason I bring her up is because Carolyn brought up some really amazing points about public engagement and leadership. And actually, I've learned as much from Carolyn Colvin over the years as I have. She was one of the people that was on my interview committee here 50 years ago. But the reason I wanted Diane to stand up is because it is because of her that I have the research career that I have. She may not know this, but when I first came as a young, naive faculty person to the University of Iowa, and I'm still quite young and rather naive most of the time, but I called the Women's Correctional Institution in Mitchellville and said, hey, you know, I'm an artist, can I come in, do some art, you know? And most prisons at that point would have said, no. But she was really wonderful. She said, great, come in, what can you do, what do you want to do? And at that time, there was a number of staff people at the prison who were also artists, and she really honestly transformed that institution. And now, you know, the second generation of transformation that I've been able to witness is also her legacy. So I just really wanted to say that, you know, I've found that working in the state of Iowa in the Department of Corrections, and I've seen a lot of correctional departments across the country, they are exceedingly progressive and very interested in partnership, and the staff is incredibly dedicated and, you know, interested in what's going on. So I just wanted to say thank you while I'm up here. So very quickly, I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm going to use a Prezi, so it's going to make you just ever so slightly seasick. I don't know if you all, oh, I have to sign, sure, yeah. I can't do two things at once, so I have to do this before I can talk anymore. So I'm in Gender, Women's, and Sexuality Studies and the School of Art and Art History. I have a really odd appointment, and it's actually allowed me to do a lot of wonderful things. And it's nice because, and actually the reason I'm in Gender, Women's, and Sexuality Studies, I hate it when you can't log in. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I was with it half, and I may just not be able to do this. No, well, okay, forget it. So I'm in Gender, Women's, and Sexuality Studies in the School of Art and Art History. And so the reason I'm in Gender, Women's, and Sexuality Studies now is because of working at the prison. And actually their shift, and it's been a long time since I've been working with them, to evidence-based practice is actually, they've been using evidence-based practice for as long as I've known it. If something doesn't work, it's real clear it doesn't work, it's very destructive, they eliminate it very quickly. But one of the things that happened is I had been going to the Women's Correctional Institution basically by myself or with my, who I call my prison partner, Jeffrey Palermo, and she's not here today, she's in social work. And we'd been doing art programs, which moved to writing programs, which moved to autobiographical writing and reading programs, which moved to us thinking, you know, what else can we do? You know, the women are getting a lot out of reading this literature, we're getting a lot out of reading it with them, you know, we're all writing, this is great. But when they talk about autobiographical writing, the issues that these women shared with us were just heartbreaking. And, you know, you ask yourself, how can they move from having this trauma in their life to getting out of this institution and being productive? And, you know, it's actually a testament to the strength of those women and the care and treatment that the women receive at the prison to their success and not coming back. I mean, I really want to say that. So I had this experience with an amazing student, Rebecca McCrae, who afterwards went on to work for the ACLU and work with women and young people who are incarcerated all across the country. Then she got a Fulbright to study a prison that had been closed in Eastern Europe, and she's continued to work in this vein. So, you know, she's one of my students, and I claim her at every chance I get. So she came and worked with me, and she begged me to come, and I kept saying, I really don't bring students. I don't feel like it's appropriate. I'm just not sure it's the right setting for students. And part of that was because I really wanted to protect the women that I worked with. You know, I'm very interested in the idea of do no harm, and it's so easy to harm people. It's so easy, and it just takes the wrong word, and then you've hurt someone's feelings, which can be quite devastating. She blew my mind and was amazing, and I actually ended up learning a great deal from her. And so then after that, I thought, well, I'm going to bring more students, you know, we're going to do more work. So I went and trained with Inside Out, and the next year, the Women's Studies Department asked me if I wanted to do their practicum, and I about danced on the ceiling. I was so excited. And so as a result of that, we began this program called the Women's Collective, and I actually have some students. So if my students and former students would stand up back here, I just want to sort of recognize them. So I have some alumni from this, and I have some new folks in here that are joining us this year. So I'm really tickled with my students, and they're amazing and continue to blow my mind incessantly and constantly. So the first year we came in and we actually did a think tank with the women. So we had a group of women and we had an equal group of students. So it was, I think it was maybe 10 and 10, something like that. And we spent that year reading literature that said, this is what women in prison are like. And then the women that were incarcerated said, yeah, that's true in some ways, not true in other ways. They asked their peers, and we came up with a list of things that we were really interested in. And that was healthcare, motherhood, substance abuse, and relationships. And they said, these are the 4 things that really are a problem in our lives. What can we do? And so we brainstormed. And, the thing about the Department of Corrections, and I know you can clarify this, there's never enough resources for the work they're asked to do. I mean, just the medication budget alone will eat you alive, at any correctional institution. And so we had to think very creatively, what things can we do without any money, right? And this is also the same true at the University of Iowa for the most part. This is a great idea. Find some money for it. We don't have any. So, the thing that we thought would be most useful is to focus on relationships, because they had some great substance abuse training programs going on. There's Narcotics Anonymous, there's Alcoholics Anonymous, there's also integrated treatment programs that are part of the correctional institution. Motherhood, they had some really interesting mothering programs going on. There's always more work to be done in that area. And actually, Jeanette Taylor is back here. I'm going to make her stand up. She's going to talk to you in a little bit. She worked with a project with Mickey Eliason called FIT, Families in Transition. And she's also done a number of things with women there. So we felt like motherhood was something that people, there were resources there. Relationships was a really big thing. And so we spent the next year basically building this curriculum. And so my poor students would meet on campus, we'd create a module, and then we'd go teach it 2 days later. And so it was really on the fly. And it took us probably 2.5 years to come up with a curriculum that we wanted to develop specifically for women in prison, because all the off-the-shelf curricula we looked at were for like privileged women, women in their 20s. It really wasn't, it just didn't match the experiences of the women with whom we were going to work. And so now we're in our 4th or 5th, I think it's our 5th year of doing this. And this year the prison has asked us to teach 6 groups of women. Okay, got it. 6 groups of women, so I think there's going to be 105 women. So we have all of these women in class at the same time. In the institution, and my students facilitate it. And then the last thing I'll talk about really fast, I know it's really fast, is the medical side of things. We met with Dr. Cook at the Women's Institution, and he said, I have 600 to 800 patients with chronic health problems. And he was in this tiny place. He had a really wonderful team of nurses, but not enough resources to do all the things he had to do. And on top of that, a number of these women have been traumatized at the hands of men, and so having a male physician, no matter how gentle and kind and caring he is, still traumatic in some ways for some of those women, and it has nothing to do with him. It's just the situation that these women came from. So Dr. Knisley and I have worked to sort of try to create some pipelines for the women at Mitchellville, and we're still working on that. They just kind of asked us to cut it out for a little bit because they just rebuilt a new institution. The hospital is, 8 times larger than the little tiny medical building was before. So anyway, so thank you very much. I've been very fortunate, and if anyone has any questions or you'd like to come to Mitchellville with me, sure we can make that happen. So thank you.